So just to get everything started, this is Understanding Testing. It's one of the parent university sessions that's happening this semester, which is through the Family Engagement Center. So Richard, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. Just a quick introduction first of me, and then Richard. We'll talk about the Family Engagement Center, then the parent university, and then go through a quick overview of today's presentation. So Richard, if you wouldn't mind. Okay, my name is Ethan Lockman. I work with the Family Engagement Center over at Oconee County Elementary School. What is the Family Engagement Center? If you're not sure, it's an inviting space for parents and volunteers, kind of a one-stop shop for resources and manipulatives, and also an office to help support the important role of parents in the child's learning. And there are tons of ways the Family Engagement Center can help you and your students. And one of the ways they're doing that is through the parent university. So Richard, if you wouldn't mind clicking. This is Richard Coleman. He works for the school board. He's the director of assessment and school improvement, I believe. And he is gracious enough to spend some time explaining to us today standardized testing, the important takeaways from it, especially as we're getting closer and closer to actually having those tests. Next slide, please. So Parent University, like I said, this is one of many sessions we've had this semester. We've had them on all different kinds of subjects so far, and we've got 2 more planned for the rest of the year. The next one's going to be April 19th. It's on healthy habits. And then later in May, we're going to have one on, I believe, mental health. That's going to be with the school counselor and Miss Leanne Hale. So we try to have 1 session a month. I hope that the parents are finding some good use out of these. And we do have an archive of these. If you go to the Family Engagement Center website, you ought to be able to find all the different recordings that we've done so far, so you can go back and watch those. And last, before we get to the overview, I do encourage you all to share what you'd like to see more of from the Family Engagement Center. I'll be sharing these slides later. And if you want to, you can click on this Parent University link right here. And that gives you a chance to kind of let us know at OCES what we're doing right, what you would like to see more of, how we can help you out some more, any questions, comments, or concerns. So if you're a parent and you're watching this, definitely head over there and let us know what you think. And then for the overview in today's presentation, Richard is just going to kind of take over. He's going to speak on different updates that have been made to the standardized testing, including new time limits, cost-saving measures, that kind of thing, technology, enhancements, the schedule, parent resources. So there's a lot of information here, but we're going to try to run through it pretty quickly. After that, I will share a little bit about our lending library. I'll end the recording, and then we'll open the floor to the Q&A. So that's how today's going to go. I don't anticipate it lasting too long. But definitely, if you have questions, hold on to them for right now. And then when we open it up to the Q&A, that's when we can start a discussion. So, Richard, without further ado, handing it off to you.
All righty. Thank you, Ethan. And thanks for inviting me to present. The focus of my presentation today is going to be the milestones assessments that are coming out pretty soon. And I'm going to focus primarily on changes to the milestones assessment that have taken place since the last time we tested. It's been almost 2 years since we've tested, since we did not test last year. So just to remind you, the milestones assessments are our state assessment for achievement that we're required to administer every year in grades 3 through 8, and then also in each of the subject areas at the high school level as well. In the elementary areas, we test math and English language arts in grades 3 through 5. And then also we have a science assessment in grades 5. Now, the big focus the past few years has been to reduce the amount of time that students spend taking these standardized assessments. So there have been enhancements made over the last couple of years to try to meet that goal. And the idea is to reduce the amount of time that students are spending taking these assessments without impacting the validity or the reliability of those measures. So this graph right here shows you what has been done to reduce the amount of time that students have to spend testing. If you look at that last column that's in red, that was the max testing time that was allowed, well, would have been allowed last school year if we had tested, but all the last few previous school years of the Milestones assessments. So you'll notice the maximum times that were allowed for these assessments previously were from 70 minutes for 90 minutes for each section of the assessment. If you look at that third column over, the max testing time 2021, you can see that for most of the assessments, the max testing time has been greatly reduced. Now you'll notice for ELA, it's a little bit, it's very close to what it was in previous years. And what they found is it would not be appropriate to reduce the amount of time spent on the ELA assessment. So those are about the same, but you'll notice with ELA, there are 3 different sections, and we administer those on 3 different days of the, so the most amount of time that students will be spending on that assessment is 90 minutes per day. But if you look at the other assessments, you'll notice that in math, science, and social studies, the amount of time spent on each of the sections is greatly reduced. Especially if you look down to social studies. Well, we don't have a social studies in the elementary level, so that one didn't impact you as much. But let's just looking at science, the max testing time allowed previously was 70 minutes, and it's down to 40. So if you look at the typical testing time, though, that's the amount of time that we expect students to spend on each of these assessments. So really, for any of the ELA assessments, we'd expect students to be finished between 45 and 65 minutes, for math between 30 and 50 minutes, and for science between 20 and 30 minutes. So these testing times are greatly reduced from what they were in previous years. Okay, so what did they do to reduce the amount of testing time? Well, one of the things they did was discontinue the social studies assessment for 5th grade altogether. So that takes one whole testing day off the calendar for our elementary schools. So like I said before, that takes us down to 3rd through 5th grade ELA and math, and then a science assessment for 5th grade as well. Now, what they did for each assessment to reduce the testing time is they replaced all of the constructive response items with technology enhanced items in mathematics. So what that means is previously for the math assessment, students had to type in some responses. So those responses would take longer to complete. So what they've done is they've taken those out and they've replaced them with technology enhanced items. We'll talk a little bit about what those items are later, but the technology enhanced items can elicit the same information that we receive from the constructive response items, but they take a lot less time. So they also replace some of the constructive response items in ELA as well. Now the ELA obviously still has the evidence-based writing, so that's in there and that's unchanged. But there were a few other constructive response items that were in the ELA assessments that have been removed and replaced with the technology enhanced items. And then in science and social studies, they've just reduced the number of test items on those as well. Reduced field test positions. So all the assessments previously had questions on them that did not count toward the score of that assessment, but they would just put in the assessment to field test them for subsequent years. So they've reduced the number of field test items that are in any of the assessments. And then they've also eliminated norm reference items in all content areas. The previous assessments had specific test items that were used in other ways other than for the actual score on the milestones test. So they removed those as well. So all in all, we have a lot fewer items. And then the items that are in there generally take less time to complete than previous years. Okay, so we mentioned that they replaced the constructed response items with technology enhanced items. So this slide just documents what some of those technology enhanced items are. So there's evidence-based selected response. So there are different ways to select the answer rather than just a bubble. Clicking the bubble A, B, C, D that make the test a little bit more interesting and a little bit more varied for the students. There are multi-part, multi-select questions. So there could be some questions on there that have more than one part and could have more than one answer. They could be asked to graph. They have drag and drop items. They have items that have drop-down lists. And then there are items in math, especially where students might use a keypad to enter a numerical response. There are also some cost-saving measures that they have instituted this year. One of those is test administration manuals will no longer be distributed to the schools. So schools will have to access those electronically, and then test examiners will have a script that they follow that's much shorter than the manual. But the one that impacts parents the most is that the printed individual student reports, the ISRs, will no longer be provided. So previously, now you would usually the next school year, early in that school year, these would be sent home in student folders. But to reduce costs, those paper reports are no longer going to be sent home. Now, if there's a reason that a parent specifically needs one, they can be requested, and we can send one, but that will be on a case-by-case basis. But the ISRs will be available in the SLDS parent portal. So if you are not accustomed to accessing the SLDS parent portal, will be something that you'll want to familiarize yourself with so you can access those scores. Okay, another enhancement that they have made for this year with the milestones is in the reporting of results for the English language arts assessment. So you see in the left-hand column there, the previous reporting categories, there were only two, one for reading and vocabulary and one for writing and language. So with beginning this year, there are going to be 6 different reporting categories. So that's going to give a lot more information that's going to be a lot more fine-tuned for students' performance on the English language arts assessments. So for reading and vocabulary, they've broken that down into 4 different reporting categories. And then writing and language, they have a separate category for the writing and language. So that should provide teachers and schools with a lot more information that should be more helpful to them in analyzing how their instruction went. This is the Milestones testing calendar for this school year. Just put it on there just for your reference. This is generally posted on all the school websites, the system website, and I'm sure it's been communicated to y'all in several ways, but there it is there just for your information. And one thing I wanted to really point out today is the parent resources that are available to you. And this is a screenshot of the Georgia Milestones Assessment System webpage on the Department of Education website. And when you have access to this presentation, you can click on this link right here and it'll take you to that page that's pictured right there. And what I want to point out is right down here at the bottom of that page is a little section called Parent Resources. And there's lots of information there if you want to find out more about each of the specific assessments. So you can go there and click on those. Well, one of them says Georgia, there's a study and resource guide. So if you go to the study and resource guide, it'll explain what's on that assessment that's specific to the grade level that you're interested in and specific to the subject that you're interested in. There'll be sample test items so you can see the types of test items that students will get at the grade level and the subject you're interested in. Another resource that's listed there is the last one on that list, which is Experience Online Testing Georgia. There's a link right there to it. But I've also put a link up here. And what we're gonna go ahead to that site today and just look at it a little bit. And what Experience Online Testing Georgia is, as it is an area where parents, students, community, whoever can go to and interact with the platform the same way that the students will be interacting with the testing platform on testing day. So there are 3 buttons down here. One is called documentation, and basically that's just going to explain how you use this site, that it's a printed document. There's a tutorial video that we're actually going to watch today that kind of gives you a good introduction of the how this tool is used. And then the last icon here is actual test practice. And this is where you would go, a student can go, a parent can go, anyone could go to actually get on the platform and see how the platform works for students. Now, one thing I want to warn you, it says test practice. The purpose of this site is to familiarize yourself with how the platform operates. The test items that you see here may or may not have anything to do with the actual content that your child is going to see. So the idea is not to practice the content, is to practice the format of the assessment.
Which is still helpful too, I think, because when the kids are getting ready for milestones, I think there's probably some anxiety with, doing the test over a computer and not a paper test. But, running through the milestones and getting them acquainted with it will probably ease a lot of that anxiety and get them more familiar with, the mechanics of it before they actually get to testing.
And I think when it comes down to test day, that's probably one of the most important things. Mm-hmm. But by the time we get to test day, all the content has been taught. There's nothing we can do about the content. But if the students are really familiar with the format, that takes a lot of that anxiety away. So it is extremely important. They need to be able to know how to use this format to access the content. Now, this year, this is probably even more important than ever because we did not test last year. The students have not been on this platform except for when they've practiced with their teachers for 2 years. Only our 5th graders have even taken a Milestones assessment before, and that was 2 years ago, so they probably don't even remember. So it's always important for us to go through this site, or there are other practice options available to the teachers as well. But this is an important aspect of being prepared for the assessments. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the tutorial video. And this is about a 10-minute video, and it just kind of explains this site.
To Experience Online Testing Georgia. This training allows students to experience online testing for the Georgia Milestones Assessment System. Let's get started. To enter the practice session, go to gaexperienceonline.com. Click on Test Practice. Click on Online Tools Training for end of grade for students in grades 3 through 8, or on end of course for students taking one of the state EOC courses. Then click on Test Practice. Choose between standard online tools You can also choose audio contrast and color chooser or video sign language if your student may need one of these accommodations, or you can just review the technology enhanced items.
Okay, I'm just going to pause it right there. This screen that you see right here, this is exactly what the students see. And moving forward from this point on, this will be exactly what the students see when they're taking the Milestones assessment.
Enter the username and password. Click on the test name. The next few screens will give you the directions for accessing the test. Click Begin Test. You can click on the drop-down to view any of the test items directly. You can choose any of the test items to choose the answer. At the bottom of the screen are Review End Test to review your answer choices and end the test. Pause to pause the test. You can click Flag if you want to flag an item for further review. Once you flagged an item, you can go back to the drop-down and you will see a flag for that item. The Option button gives access to the masking tool. For masking, click Options, click Add Mask. You can enlarge the mask and then place it anywhere you would like in order to block out areas of the text to focus your reading. You can click Show or Hide Mask to show or hide the masks. Let's review the toolbar now. As noted, the pointer allows you to select the correct answer. If you are unsure about an answer, you can click the cross-off tool. To cross off an answer, click on the incorrect answer and you will see a large red X. To remove an X, just click again on that answer choice. The next tool in the toolbar is the highlighter. Use the highlighter to emphasize an area on the screen. To highlight the area, click on the top left-hand corner and drag to the bottom of the last word you would like to highlight. Return to the highlighter to clear the highlights. The next tool is the sticky note. The sticky notes allow you to take notes within a question. Choose the sticky note. Choose the location where you would like the sticky note, and then enter text. You can click on X to close the sticky note. The sticky note will remain with the test item, and you can return to access the content of the sticky note by double-clicking on the number. The Insight program is scalable and will automatically enlarge test items depending on the size of the monitor. There is also a magnifier to zoom in on images or text. You can click on 1.5 or 2 times the normal size. You can scroll in order to see different parts of the test item. Return to the zoom tool to turn it off. The line guide will allow you to track a single line of text you are reading. Click on the line guide and drag to the line you want to read. Click again on the line guide to turn off the tool. The next tool is the calculator. Use this tool to form mathematical calculations for items that permit.
Okay, I'm gonna fast forward through this because the elementary assessments do not have access to the calculator. So I'm gonna advance a little bit here.
English language arts tests have a writing task in which you must write an answer responding to one or more reading passages. These tasks begin with information directing the student on how to approach the tasks. Then the student will be presented with several multiple choice items, a short constructed response item, and an extended response item. Students should read the information about the task and read both passages before answering the multiple choice items. When you see a passage, you will notice it will tell you how many pages in all there are in the passage and the page that you are on. To read the entire passage, just click on the right half of the screen to page through to additional text. Click on the left side of the screen to return. After the multiple choice items, there will be a short constructed response item. There will be a place to write on the right side of the screen. To answer the writing prompt, type in the open box on the right. Once a response is written, text can be edited and moved to another area of the response using the cut, copy, and paste icons. To move the text, highlight the text to be moved, select cut, choose the location where you would like the text, and click paste. Text can also be duplicated using the copy and paste buttons in the same manner. The undo and redo buttons allow you to go back if you make an error. Next will be the extended response item. First, you'll see the writing task. There will also be a writer's checklist that you can pop up and read. Scroll to enter the response to this task. Some items will ask you to click to respond. Here you can drag your answers into the boxes. If you want to replace an answer, you just drag the new item over the response and it will replace. Click OK when you are done. Some items ask for drop-down responses. You just click and choose your responses. A math test may contain keypad input questions. This is a type of constructed response question that allows for the creation of a numeric answer expression requiring a response. Students can use the keypad as well as the keypad editor. Sometimes you will see a fraction. You enter your information in the fraction. Some items will ask you to graph. You can choose the line and click and drag to the location. If you make a mistake, you can always erase and start over. Some items require that you drag and paste, and you can put the response multiple times in a location or locations. After finishing the last item of the test, the student will see their flagged items. They will see any unanswered multiple choice. They will see items that are constructor response that are filled or not filled. And when the student is finished, they can click End Test and then click Submit to ensure that the responses have been submitted for scoring. This concludes the experience on.
Right. That was great. I didn't realize how in-depth that was going to be, but that was really, really good. Thank you for sharing.
So that's just a good overview, but I would encourage parents to go to that site and do it for themselves. Take the test practice. You can practice it with your kids. Like I said before, one of the options that you can choose is, rather than going through all the tests, you can choose a tutorial that just walks through the technology enhanced items. So students can practice those just one by one. But I do want to emphasize, you'll notice at the top of that test, it said high school. Okay, so the point here has nothing to do with the content that's on that site. It just has to do with the item types that are on that site. So that's what you're practicing there, not the test content. Okay. Go back to the PowerPoint.
I think you stopped presenting.
Yeah, I did. I'm
Okay.
sharing again. Okay, so that's the last thing I just want to review is, whenever I talk to parents about the Milestones assessment, one of the assessments you're probably more familiar with is MAP. So we just wanted to talk about the differences between those two assessments and why we do both. So generally, the Georgia Milestones assessment is a summative assessment, and that means it occurs at the end of instruction. So at the end of the year, we take the Milestones assessment after all instruction is completed. Whereas the MAP assessment is more of a formative assessment, in that it occurs, we do one at the very first of school, so before instruction, and then during instruction. So it's very different in the timing. And because of that, it's very different ways that they can be used. Now with the Georgia Milestones, the content is determined by, and it's limited by, the Georgia curriculum standards of a single grade level. So if you're taking a Milestones math assessment and you're a third grader, the only items that you're going to see on that assessment are third grade Georgia standard for math items. Whereas the content on the MAP assessments, it's not limited to these grade-based standards. So the items that you see there on the MAP assessments are going to have a greater range of skills that cross multiple grade levels. And then the results of the Milestones assessments are used to determine how the student has mastered the grade-based standards once instruction has concluded. So it's a big picture of how you did for the school year. Now with the MAP assessment, the results, because we are receiving results all during the school year, they can be used to adjust instruction as it occurs. So where the Milestones test comes after instruction has concluded, the MAP results can be used as instruction is taking place. And then another big advantage, another thing that, or another real reason that we love the MAP, is the MAP results include a score that specifically addresses growth from one administration to the next. So it gives us a measure of student growth from fall to winter, from fall to spring, from third grade to fourth grade. So literally, you can have MAP results. We administer MAP in grades K through 8. So you could have a student's MAP results from when they were in kindergarten all the way through 8th grade, and you can track their progress all the way from kindergarten through 8th grade. So that's a big advantage for MAP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I think this is me.
Okay.
So that's the bulk of our presentation today. But I know that as we're preparing for these milestones, like your teachers are definitely focused on that right now. But if you at home are noticing that your students have any kind of gaps or anything that they might not be completely confident in, maybe while you're working with homework or whatever it is that you're doing with them at home, I just wanted to plug really quick the Family Engagement Center's lending library. Right, so we've got tons of manipulatives and resources and books and kind of educational supplements that parents and families can use with their students at home to kind of make up for, like I said before, like a lack of confidence or lack of knowledge in certain subject areas. I mean, definitely talk to your students' teachers about that. What your students might need, But definitely, if you guys are seeing any kind of way in which you think this lending library would be helpful, we do have a checkout procedure, but definitely feel free to contact me or Ms. Felgenhauer, and we'll definitely be able to set you up with some resources. We'll get them to send you home, work on them with your students, get them ready for those tests because they are coming up right at the end of April. Yeah, so that's it for the lending library. I think the next slide is just our contact information. Yeah, so if you have any further questions that maybe you're a parent who's watching this after the fact, maybe you're not watching it live, and you have questions for me or Richard, our contact information is right there. Email, call. Emailing is probably best for me. I'm not sure how it is for Richard.
Either
one, yeah. So definitely reach out, get in touch. We will be happy to help in any way that we can.